Sarika, Namaskar. Hello everyone. Welcome you all to first edition of the APBA webinar. As you know, APBA means Asian Polyurethane Business Association. In our first episode, we are going to have a very interesting conversation with our invited guest, Mr. Duncan Geddes. He is a previous owner of the technical foam services based in United Kingdom. And this program is hosted by the president of and chairman of the APBA, Mr. Stefan Hermans. So there will be good conversation between both of them, talking about technical PU forms, what things happening in the business markets, and also product development issues. So it's a good opportunity to learn from this conversation session between Duncan and Stefan. And before I let them come on board, let me quickly introduce to you all what is this APBA all about. APBA is, again, its expansion version is Asian Polyurethane Business Association. It's a new baby in PU, but all people working in this behind this one is a huge experience in the PU industry. It's an association aimed to be a platform for the polyurethane industry on pan-Asian base in close cooperation with existing country-wise PU associations, by bridging the efforts to connect and explore the opportunities for the PU industry. Just give you some idea about our objective. Just like any other association, it's all about the supporting the industry in the best possible way and promoting the PU industry. We cover a broad range of issues, for the PU industry, both on the legislation, product development, knowledge-based activities, and see how to stay in competition with the other alternate materials to PU, and also most importantly that benefiting the members in terms of understanding the developments, at the same time also the market opportunities. That's overview, but you can always read this, our objectives in our website. Our member types are a little broader. We invite end-to-end type of membership. We have regular members who are producing polyurethane products. We have associate members or technology suppliers, and we have professional members who offer the technical services for the PU industry. We have strategic members. We have the associations, country-wise association or product-wise associations across the world as being part of the strategic member. We have end-user member as well, which are basically who are PU users, product users, but furniture, refrigeration, or mattresses, and automotive industry members. And also we have research members. Basically, they are from the universities who are active in the conducting research on the PU. So this is a broad range of membership types. We've already opened our memberships now. Pleased to say that we are quite good number of members who have all registered being part of the APBA. Key activities, how we want to serve our members and what we're trying to address issues related to the PU industry. Of course, we have quarterly conferences focusing on the specific issues of the PU, and we're going to host a number of training programs for the benefit of the industry. We do have webinars like this. In the webinars, we may have a conversation with the leaders, of course, technology suppliers can make technical presentations, research presentations. We will cover a broad range of issues. This is one of the connecting activity on a regular basis for the members as well, non-members as well. We plan to do a monthly webinar. We do have a PU News magazine, which is either free to download, or which we are publishing in a bi-monthly issue. And we also support the trade exhibitions related to the PU industry, and sometimes we have PU, APBA booth will be there, or APBA organize a pavilion as well. And we also plan to do the technical tours, visiting the shows or visiting the factories. So it's kind of educational tour among the members as well. So these are a broad range of activities that we plan for the members and also the PU industry. As we start doing it, it gets evolved with more and more, with whatever relevant to the industry we organize. These are the founders, and I'm happy to say Stefan Hermans, he's a well-experienced veteran in the PU industry with 25+ years experience in the PU industry. He's a co-founder along with me. I'm also involved with the PU industry for the last last, I can say 10 years, organizing exhibitions, training programs, conferences. We see there is a need for the association in the region, and it's connecting all the companies in Asia, and see how best we can support them. So, but there will be many more advisors. We take help of many advisors, experts from the different parts of the world, and to run this association more efficiently for the benefit of the industry. So some of the exhibitions that we recommend you to participate, okay, and one is UTech Southeast Asia. The APBA has a booth which is going to happen in Singapore in 13 to 14 November. You have a chance to meet Stefan in Singapore. Please do so if you are visiting or participating in the show. Get to know about our APBA. And we do have a PU Tech Expo. This organized Technobase. There will be a pavilion, APBA pavilion. Members can take advantage of the being a member and the special privileges to participate in this APBA pavilion. And we also have a supporting the PU Tech in India, one of the leading PU exhibition in the region, well-established show organized by the Indian Polyurethane Association. Highly recommended to visit this show. It will again happen during 9 to 11th April in New Delhi. APBA will visit, Stefan will visit, and me also visit this show. So these are recommended shows that I do encourage all of the fraternity of the PU industry to participate and meet and greet and explore the opportunities there. And I'm pleased to say we have invited the IPUA, Indian Polyurethane, as a strategic member. It's a really honor to have them as a part of APBA. And they're well experienced. They're doing a great job for the Indian polyurethane industry. We encourage all Indian PU industry people to be part of the IPUA, and they're doing a really good job and for the benefit of the industry. And we also have ISOPA. They're also specialized in the diisocyanate and the polyols. They provide fantastic training programs, and will also work on the regulations related to the chemicals. We encourage you to follow this ISOPA. They have safety training programs, and please do visit their website, get to know them, and really it's worthwhile to be part of the ISOPA journey as well for all the PU industry people. Okay. As I mentioned to you, PU News is our bi-monthly magazine. So basically ebook, but e-magazine, but we also publish during our printed version at our conferences or events that we participate. So it's an industry magazine. We welcome you all to contribute. If you're an expert or if you have any news or products that you want to share to the industry, you are most welcome. And if you're a member of the APBA, you can advertise your company for free. Yeah, so every issue you can publicize your, you can put an advertisement on your company. So that is one of the benefit of being a member of APBA. So we try to help to give an opportunity to publicize the members and their product profiles and reach out to the expanded markets as appropriate. Most importantly, that we work on the knowledge. This is PU News is also a platform for you to get to know what is the new things happening in the in the PU industry. There will be a lot of interview sessions. We're happy to have Mr. Bart as first issue as a president of the Europor. We have fantastic interview session is there. So I do encourage all of you to download this issue. It's available free. Go to our website, apba.online. So this is our official website for the APBA. And I encourage each one of you who are participating today or who are going to watch it later on in this session, please do download and read this magazine, and also follow us on a regular basis to get to know about our activities. So that's about APBA, and I think I just try to give you what's APBA is all about, what's our function, what do you want to do, and what kind of activities are planned. So today is our first episode of the APBA. We're really honored to have Mr. Duncan as a part of this conversation session today. Okay, of course, Stefan and Duncan talk to each other. If there are some questions you would like to pose to Stefan or Duncan, so please post the questions in the question box, and we will, I will ask these questions to, either Duncan or Stefan as appropriate. So this is not only talking together between those two guys, but also I encourage you to have, post questions. But if you like to ask face to face, open the camera. If you are comfortable to open the camera, drop a message, then I will allow you to open your camera and ask the questions directly as well. So it's basically an interactive session with Duncan. It is the owner of the previous owner of the technical foam services from UK. So join me to welcome Duncan and Stefan to come on board to have a conversation.
Thank you, Peram, for that introduction of the APBA. And of course, a very hearty welcome to Duncan, all the way from the UK. What time is it now, Duncan, over there?
It's just gone 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So, yeah, early afternoon.
So we're sitting here in Thailand, at least I am in Peram. So we're just 7 o'clock p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, Duncan, thanks for joining.
Yeah, pleasure.
Let me start off the interview with some introductory question. Maybe we invited you to talk about technical foams, but can you help the audience to get a better understanding of what is the difference between technical polyurethane foams and comfort polyurethane foams, and maybe specifically, when you look at the applications?
Yeah, I think my overriding view on the foam industry is because we are talking about a material that is very much volume driven. The manufacturing of foam is all set up to focus upon volumetric grades. 90% of the industry is comfort foam. There's no getting away from that. So 10% of our industry is what I would view as technical foams. Comfort foams obviously end up in one market, furniture, bedding. So for that reason, you're looking at density, hardness, recoverability, what I would call memory, flammability. So just a handful of characteristics. But that's 90% of the industry. 10% of the industry is obviously the technical foam side, but that's because technical foams are used in so many different applications. The physical characteristics that are looked at for technical foams are much wider. So we'll lead on to this, but obviously technical foams are used in automotive vehicle trim. They're used in medical applications, wound dressings, patient ventilation, sound absorbing foams, cleaning sponges, industrial filtration. So you've got air filtration, water filtration, packaging, sealing. There's so many different applications for foam that the physical characteristics of those raw materials are often looked at in far more detail, I think, than in traditional comfort foams. So although density is important, but more often than not, cell structure of the foam, the consistency of the cell structure, the pore size of the foam is absolutely critical. I mean, we talk about sound absorbing foam. Obviously, to absorb sound, the noise needs to go into the foam. So you need to have a consistent cell structure of polyester or polyether foam. Reticulated foams, which have been around now for about 40 years, sort of filter foams, again, the pore size of the reticulation foam nowadays is very, very critical. Tear strength of foam is very important for technical foams, especially in cleaning applications. Sponges are expected to last longer, so therefore the foam needs to last longer as well. Even more what I would term basic applications like packaging, for example, the packaging industry, nowadays, not just density and hardness, but color is important, cell structure is important. Again, so the physical properties of the foam are often looked at in far more detail in the technical side than they are in the comfort side.
Okay, and that's very clear. Thank you for that. Looking at technical foams in particular, then, I mean, you mentioned it's 10% of the total volume, but you've been in the industry for a long time. I dare not to say that at a date, only a year, Because I want to keep it on a friendly note here, but nevertheless. So how have you seen technical foams evolve over the years? You know, when you're looking at, for example, automotive or medical, for that matter, there are many industries, as you just mentioned. So, what's your take on that?
Because I've only ever worked in the technical foam sector, I've kind of always fought the corner of the technical foam market in the overall foam industry. So, for example, any time that I've been to a foam manufacturing plant, any time I've been to another converter, the discussion has always seemed to be centered around comfort foams. But technical foams, I think, have a very, very important part within the industry. I'll give you some examples. I touched on reticulated foam earlier. Well, reticulated foam was developed all those years ago for filtration, air filtration, then water filtration, so vehicle filters.
Yeah.
But obviously in recent years, reticulated foam is now being used in outdoor seating. So the market has taken what is termed a technical foam and found an application for it within comfort foams, because reticulated foam is far more resilient outdoors. So there's been changes in recent years, such as taking a technical foam and putting it in the comfort sector. You've now got a much wider range of, for example, hydrophobic foams. So whereas foam generally tended to be hydrophilic and absorbent and sort of absorbent, you've got hydrophobic foams that are now being used in room dressing materials. Right. You've got very, very lightweight foams that are being used within vehicle insulation over the last sort of 5 years, something like that, because of the demand by the automotive industry to reduce the weight of materials that are going into the car. We're now seeing polyethers and polyesters being foamed at around 8 to 10 kilos a cubic meter, which is incredibly light, really, really, really light. That's been a recent sort of evolution of technical foams. We're getting graphite foams. The demand for graphite foams in the aircraft sector is growing and growing as there's more sort of transportation around the world. So there's been quite a few developments in the last sort of few years, but I think what I see from the foam manufacturers is that they're getting their consistency on a batch-to-batch basis is getting better. I think that's vital, because the end users nowadays, the automotive plants, the aircraft plants, the medical companies, all that kind of thing, when they specify a foam, they specify it to a certain standard. They expect that standard to be absolutely critically maintained. So I think consistency from a batch to batch by the foaming plants is getting better and better. Pinholes in automotive trim foams is a non-starter nowadays, a complete non-starter. And I remember in the world of medical foams, when vac therapy came along, 25 years ago, so foam being used within wounds for wound care. In those days, there was a tolerance of plus or minus 5 pores per inch. I mean, nowadays that's down to sort of plus or minus 2 pores per inch. So again, the foaming plants are consistently improving their quality. And I think the other thing to bear in mind in terms of evolution of foams or technical foams is the converter, who plays a key role in the supply chain. The converters are having to convert the foam into the components in cleaner environments, more accurate environment, or more accurate. They're having to provide batch traceability. So again, foam manufacturers are having to be more aware of the details that they supply to the converter. So batch traceability is becoming increasingly important. The accuracy of the products that we produce as a converter is getting more and more important. So I think the industry's evolved on both sides. On the technical side, it's evolved on the range of foams that it's making, so the outdoor seating, hydrophobic foams, that kind of thing. But it's also evolved as a result probably of customer demand. Yeah, the medical companies, the aircraft companies, all the aviation companies, they all want a more consistent product.
Right.
So I think it's evolved in two ways.
Right. No, that's clear. I think that probably also talks to the topic that I wanted to touch on now, and that is, and I haven't seen as many foam grades as you have been using in your former company.
Yeah.
The last time I checked, when I was in Switzerland, we used to make roughly 280 different recipes, which I thought already was quite absurd. But you've beaten that by going with around 300 foam grades. So what's going on there?
This is where Technical Foam Services stood alone in the industry. Bear in mind, Stefan, we were an independently owned company. We could take a completely different approach to the way that we supplied the market compared to what I would say your bigger, more corporate foam manufacturers and foam converters.
Sure.
I took the view that it was a very sales-led, very customer-led company. And I took the view that we wanted to supply as many different technical foam applications and technical foam customers as we possibly could. To do that, you need to stock the full range of materials. And therefore, to do that, you have to invest your cash into your stock, because moving foam, as we know, around the world takes a little bit of time and is quite expensive. So therefore, I had no qualms about, holding a wide range of foam grades in stock and investing our cash into the stock. Hence why we ended up with about 300 different grades, which I should say includes polyethylene foam, includes melamine. Yes, not just polyurethane foam. There was different types of foams there as well. And what it allowed us to do by having such a wide range of materials, when we got an inquiry from a customer, irrespective of what market they came from, irrespective of the application, we could listen to them and go, okay, we understand what you need. We're going to send you samples of 2 or 3 different grades. Let's start off with that as day one. And it allowed us to respond quickly on the back of the fact that we actually had the material sitting here. And it really gave us an edge over our competition, because what we found was that our competitors, if they didn't have a material in stock that would meet that inquiry, more often than not, they didn't move forward with that inquiry. We always, 99% of the time, we had a material that met the customer's inquiry. And it really gave us a chance to stand out against the competition, because it meant that we could move forward quickly. And I'm a little bit of an old-fashioned sales guy. I'm one of these people that never says no. So you say yes to a customer, and then you kind of figure out a way forward, even if you're not sure what they want at the beginning, and you think, Christ, how are we actually going to fulfill this need? If you say yes and start with something, it gives you something to work with. And by having such a wide range of foams in stock, it gave us something to work with. Bear in mind as well, Stefan, I mean, you'll know this. I've been around, foam warehouses in Switzerland, and foam lasts. It has a great shelf life as long as you look after it. Foam can easily sit in your warehouse for several years as long as you look after it and keep it dry and so forth. So I wasn't ever really worried about the shelf life of foam. And it's interesting because obviously, that strategy of having so many grades of foam in stock helped Technical Foam Services become a successful business. And now, obviously, as part of a corporate business, I've seen the other side of the fence where there's a requirement to reduce your stock holding, take your cash out of your stock. I just did it completely the other way around.
Yeah. No, I get where you're coming from, and basically, I mean, if you talk about it in supply chain terms, you moved your customer order decoupling point to your raw material being foam, and
Yeah.
being an independent converter as you have been, yeah, that doesn't give you the stress of having to reduce your inventory.
Mm.
Anyway, I think that would be another all-night discussion about inventory holding
Well, it,
and
it
strategies
also
about that.
it also allowed us, Stefan. Obviously, I took the decision probably, I'd say 12, 13 years ago to explore importing foam from the Far East, which I think as a polyurethane foam, I'm talking about,
Mhm. Yeah,
which is something that I think that we probably did far ahead of our competitors, which allowed me to get a bit of understanding about the Asian sort of polyurethane foam industry. Um,
right.
and I've actually enjoyed that process of bringing raw material in from the Far East, seeing how the manufacturers develop and have progressed in the Far East as well. So it's actually because I took that decision all those years ago, it's actually made me a bit of a fan of the Asian foam association, foam industry.
Right,
So,
right. Well, I mean, that's
so,
good to hear, and I mean, I can underline that comment, obviously, having been out here for some time now.
mm,
Um, that definitely there is a lot of experience here in Asia Pacific. So people sometimes forget that the conditions for foaming are so different than in Western Europe or US, for that
yeah,
matter, even compared to China. It all has to do with the ambient temperature and
yeah,
the humidity, which is just
yeah,
totally different.
yeah.
Um, I mean, you mentioned something already about adapting to the market needs, but the point that I wanted to go on is a little bit closer to my heart at this point in time, for some time now, actually, and that's sustainability.
Hmm.
So when you look at sustainability, and you know, given the fact that there is more and more pressure to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, mainly due to the fact that the United Nations, in their famous Paris Agreement, kind of tied in 132 countries, if I'm not mistaken, to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by, depending on which country, but let's say 2050 to go to a zero tolerance, and even some intermediate goals not too far away, another 5 years before most of the countries need to reduce by 20%. So how do you think that the technical foam industry can reduce this environmental footprint?
Yeah, this is obviously kind of directed maybe at the entire foam industry, not just the technical foam industry. Because
Hmm.
bear in mind, as I say, the vast majority of foam that is made is made for the comfort sector,
Right.
and not just technical foams. But I think that clearly, from what I can see, all the European foam manufacturers, in particular, are focusing on how to use sort of plant-based biopolyols, polyols that are captured from the CO2 gas,
Mhm.
polyols from Stefan, subject that I know you're close to. Polyols coming back from used foam mattresses. That is clearly the way forward for the entire foam industry. So I don't think it's just a technical foam subject. I think this is a much bigger objective for the entire foam
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
There seems to be what's interesting is that a lot of these foam manufacturers are working in partnerships nowadays with universities, and I think that's going to be increasingly important because foam manufacturers tend to be quite traditional in terms of how they approach their processes. So by getting these universities on board and what I would say is a fresh approach, I think the speed in which we are going to see plant-based biopolyols used in foam is going to rapidly increase.
Mhm.
The foam industry is very aware of what it needs to be done, and it is reacting. And obviously, again, I know we touched on it recently, is reusing old mattresses, reusing old furniture. As the vast majority of foam ends up in domestic upholstery, it makes sense to try and focus on those products and making sure they don't go to landfill, they don't go to incineration, because that's where most foam ends up.
It's correct. Absolutely right. I mean, unfortunately, still the global numbers at least showing that 10% gets recycled, and the 90% either gets into, as you say, landfill or being incinerated, which is the worst of the worst thing for the climate. I mean, the energy production is actually the major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Over 70, I did some calculations, and over 75% here in Thailand is due to the electricity production.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm.
Yeah. So the thing that I in the discussions that I'm having on the sustainability, and I also expressed that in one of my most recent talks in Shanghai, is that we seem to get stuck into this people, planet, profit.
Yeah.
And that's like it's almost like a vicious circle, but then spinning down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like spiral going down, and it as soon as the profitability factor comes into play,
Mm-hmm.
it's getting very hard to convince people that bio-based or recycled polyol or whatever kind of material gets used.
Yeah, and I agree, because obviously, bio-based polyols seem to still be a little bit more expensive. And speaking here as a converter, on behalf of the converter sort of side of the industry, if you make a proposal to an end user in say the medical sector or the packaging sector or sponges or whatever, and you can say, look, this is a foam grade that's been made from more environmentally friendly polyol, or this is a traditional chemical based polyol, and that's a little bit more expensive than the chemical. So the environmentally friendly one is a bit more expensive than the chemically based one. Sadly, 99 times out of 100, price will determine the choice. It's a shame.
Exactly.
I think
that's my point exactly, and I think that there we probably need some more support, either coming out of the consumer voice, or maybe even some governmental support. I mean, the whole APBA schemes that are going on right now are there to make the manufacturers more responsible. So, and then in this case, responsible for the environment. So I think that's a major point that needs to be addressed.
I think that's we're going a bit off subject here, Stefan, but I think that's more of there's a human element there, isn't there, as well? It's human mentality. Is people always want the best quality for the lowest price, but price seems to win too much.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's probably not so much the point. I mean, the fact that the raw material cost may be higher not necessarily means that you need to price the end product higher.
Slow progress.
Well, I mean, there is something to be said for ESG or responsible
Yeah,
management, which brings me to the next topic on
yeah.
management. I mean, you've had your company for quite some time. So what did you do to what was the most important for you to maintain the leadership in the technical foam industry, and how important do you see cross-industry collaboration in driving new developments?
I think we were fortunate because being independent allowed us to develop relationships with pretty much most of the key foam manufacturers, especially in Europe. We work with a couple in the States, and as I said before, a couple in Asia. That relationship between a converter and a foam manufacturer is absolutely critical, because what it allowed us to do was that when we developed new business with a customer, we could say to the customer, right, we're the converter, this is the manufacturer, whoever they may be. And what we found was that the foam manufacturers that we worked on behalf of, and I use the expression on behalf of, because effectively they were making, the manufacturers are the guys that have invested all the money in the technology and so forth. We were just basically converting the material on their behalf.
Right.
So we often introduced the customer to the foam manufacturer, and the foam manufacturers really appreciated our honesty with them, because it meant that they themselves then learned where we were selling their foam into.
Right.
And you could argue that's maybe quite an unusual approach, because most companies don't tell their customers where they're buying their raw materials from. We took it the other way, and we were quite happy to tell our customers where the raw material was coming from. So it meant that our customers learned more about the manufacturing process, and our manufacturers learned more about where their foams were actually being used. And I think that approach should, I know it works, and I think actually that the industry could do with more of that. So I think manufacturers are going to have to try and make a better effort to work closer with the converters and give those converters the confidence to introduce them to the customers. It's the old adage, Stefan, of the more you know, the more you can kind of work with other people. You can work more effectively, can't you, with the more that you know. So I think that's very important, and I think sadly nowadays we are seeing, especially in Europe, foam manufacturers tend to keep their cards closer to their chest, and we have converters that are not working close enough with those manufacturers. So I think there's room for improvement there. And I actually think, we're talking today on behalf of the Asian Polyurethane Business Association. Europe in Europe does a fantastic job. But again, you could argue that that's more centered around the foam manufacturers. There's not enough converters in that association. So I think the associations, there's the Polyurethane Foam Association in the States. I think those associations could better embrace, I know your Asian Polyurethane Business Association is early days, but I think by opening up its doors to the converting side of the industry it would be a good thing as well.
No, absolutely agree with you on that point, and to elaborate a little bit more, we actually recently decided to go even one step further than that and say, in order for this to be complete, we need the end users. In other words, we need the mattress manufacturers, we need the chair manufacturers for automotive, we need the furniture manufacturers, because we need to hear their voice in the industry. And as we are moving more and more towards what I would say circular supply chains or circular industry, the suppliers and customer roles are getting different. Because the supplier could suddenly be a customer of his customer. And so there is a lot of changes going on, also stimulated by this circular economy sustainability team that we just touched upon. But it all ends down to the same thing. You need to work together. You can call it collaboration, you can call it whatever fancy name you want to give it. Doesn't matter. You need to work together. You need to listen to each other, respect each other, and get to a common goal. And that's what I think, if I may be so free, that's what I hear what you're saying. I mean, basically you're fulfilling the role, or you fulfill the role at that time in your company of application engineer combined with sales, combined with purchasing. So a lot of different roles at the same time.
Yes.
And I think that's an important point. That's an important point.
Yeah.
So sitting here in Thailand, obviously, let's move a little bit on the APBA. You said you already had some very early dealings with Asia in your past. Without being presumptuous, but how do you see the Asian market for technical foams, let's focus on foams, in its development compared to, let's say, Europe or US or even China for that matter, because China is still, yes, it's Asia, but it's not Asia. You know, it's an entity by itself.
I think that the European side has, obviously the pace of growth in Asia is considerably quicker than it is in Europe. And I think that the gap between the two is now actually a lot closer than maybe we realise, Stefan. I've been really impressed, to say, the last sort of 3 years, dealing with like Chinese, 2 or 3 Chinese phone manufacturers, and in Thailand. I've been really impressed in the last 2 or 3 years as to how much it's caught up on the European side. And I think there's an element of actually the European side, dare I say, has kind of slowed down their growth in recent times. What's going to really allow it to kick forward is the technical knowledge, the technical knowledge of the foams in Asia. I think there's knowledge about comfort foams because it's an easier range of materials to understand.
Right.
The challenge that Asian foam manufacturers and converters face, I think, is gaining the knowledge on the selling of technical foams, really understanding what their foams are capable of, where all the different applications are. It's more of a sales skill than anything else, because I think the quality of foams that can now be made within Asia and the range is actually very good. And in my experience, what we were importing from Asia couldn't fault the quality at all. You know, qualities were excellent. The challenge is, as I say, more from a sales point of view. Learning what those foams are capable of, learning about all the different applications, and actually getting the foam specified. That's really key.
I hear what you're saying. I agree to that. With the point when you say selling, and you mentioned it just now, application knowledge, knowledge about the foam, combined with what you said before, is that you need to have a much more in-depth knowledge of polyurethane foam and its physical properties to be able to sell the foam. So whereas comfort foam, at least in Asia, still is being sold on a what I would call touch and feel.
Yeah.
If it feels right, then it is right. That cannot happen with technical foams.
Right. And it's giving those sort of technical salespeople the I don't know, the confidence and the courage to get the foam specified. I think there's probably going to be a lot more applications in Asia where foam will get specified in the coming years than there are at the moment. It's a confidence thing as well.
Yeah, no, I mean with the focus, if you look at the automotive sector, for example, with the focus on electric vehicles, obviously foams related to batteries, the so-called battery foam.
Yeah.
I doubt that at this point in time there is a capacity and capability here to produce it on the scale that it would be needed. If you look at the projections for electric vehicle productions, if you look at the associated batteries and so on and so forth, I think that gap can increase also much more if we don't do something.
Yeah. Well, that obviously leads us on to the whole kind of partnership thing between European and American foam manufacturers and Asian manufacturers. Although we've started to see that in a small way, I think there's a lot more to be done there. And I think that anything, and I'm now sitting here so kind of speaking on behalf of like the whole technical foam sector, I think that anything that can be done to support that transfer of knowledge from Europe and the States into Asia on behalf of the foam industry, it's got to be a good thing, hasn't it? Because the more foam we can all get specified in all these applications, the better.
Yes.
I don't think we need that transfer of knowledge so much in the comfort sector because I think it's possibly already there to a large degree.
Well, yes and no. I mean, when you look at foam, unfortunately, I still see some things going on in the comfort sector that makes my toes curl and my neck hair rise. Some genius putting memory foam in the middle of two other foam grades kind of makes me think, do you really understand what you're doing? But
that's an interesting one.
It was an interesting one, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. So you've got a point there, but I think, let's say, the transfer of knowledge. There's still plenty of work to be done on that. I think we can agree. I mean, I look at the foam industry, and this is pretty sad to me. Is that when we look at Europe in particular, nobody goes through college or university and wants to get a job in the foam industry. People kind of fall into the foam industry, don't they, as a career? And for a material that is so unique and has such wide number of applications, it's such a specialist material, it's a shame that the foam industry doesn't seem to get more attention in terms of education and
it's one of the things that we set out as APBA to do as well. I mean, a lot of good work is already happening. If I just and you heard Peram introduce our newest strategic member, the India PU Association, and then they're doing quite a lot of work on that as well with industries and with. But outside the IPUA, nobody seems to know that. So what we are trying to do here is by getting that strategic partnership, helping to expose what kind of capabilities each of these associations actually have and share it amongst each others. So to say it very, brute-wise, we don't want to invent the bloody wheel. Right? It's already there. And I was almost tempted to talk about the pig, as you mentioned something before on the European industry, but I'm not going to do that. Okay. That's an insider joke.
Yeah, we'll leave that as a nice memory.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of Asia and the challenges that we have, what do you think? Why is there not more growth of the technical foam?
I think that comes back to the knowledge of the salespeople, not truly understanding, the capabilities of all the materials that are, that are out there yet. It's an education thing.
Yeah, educational experience, being exposed to that knowledge. I mean, I think that's a big starting point.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you look at the Asian market, given your experience, what strategies or innovations do you think could help?
Well, so I think partnerships between Asian phone manufacturers and European/American manufacturers I'd like to see more of that. And I think then that would obviously give the opportunity to get more knowledge out to Asia, and get a lot of it comes down to getting raw materials specified by the OEMs. So, for example, in the automotive sector and in the medical sector and so forth, getting raw materials specified at the very beginning. I mean, I look at the example of Nitto foam. I know it's not polyurethane, but Nitto have always been very, very good at getting their raw materials specified at the OEM, and then wherever the OEM plant is, be it in Europe or in the States or whatever, if it states Nitto on the drawing, they're going to have to use a Nitto material via a local Nitto converter. So I know Nitto are Japanese, but they seem to have nailed down that strategy, and it's worked for them, and it's obviously allowed them to develop really well over recent years. So I think again, that's got to be a real goal, is for the manufacturers, the Asian manufacturers, to get their material specified at source. Comes back to as well Asian converters, helping getting those materials specified.
Yeah, and I think I agree with that. That's definitely one strategy to follow. When I was thinking about this myself, I also was thinking about a better understanding of the difference in conditions, because, as I mentioned before, the conditions under which you produce polyurethane foam have a significant impact on the quality, the consistency of quality, but even on the final outcome. You can think about ambient temperature and of course the humidity, but even the pressure, the air pressure, whether you foam on 2,000 meter height or at sea level, there's difference.
Well, Stefan, the one I always refer to is when you look at the polishing pad sector, you have polishing foams that are made, for example, in Germany, and you have the same grade manufactured in Asia, to the same material specification in terms of density, hardness, all that kind of thing, the polishing pads will perform differently. Genuinely, you have the same spec, and it's, and the two foaming plants can work in conjunction, but the foam pads will perform differently. And you try and explain that to a comfort foam guy, it's just irrational. But that's why the technical foam sector is so different to the comfort foam sector, because it's a completely different level of expectations.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think that over the years, the comfort sector has grown somewhat towards that level, but there is still a huge gap in understanding each other's worlds.
Yes. Yeah. I'm quite passionate about that, because I see the manufacturers nowadays, kind of just saying foam is foam. It's not. Comfort foam and technical foam is a completely different animal altogether. Really is.
Absolutely.
What I would say is, well, I think in terms of developing the Asian market, I mean, seeing these exhibitions and shows, so PU Tech, Foam Expo, Interfoam, they're fantastic. They've got to help, haven't they? And I think
I agree with you, and it is definitely a good way to contact and to connect with each other. Whereby the side note I want to make on that is that the platform to connect, and that's perfect. But knowledge sharing could be improved somewhat on any of the exhibitions, I would say. I think that knowledge sharing, and that's, I think, the role, is also not the role of the exhibitions. I think that's the role of institutions like ourselves, worldwide, be it US, Europe, or China, or India. I think that's a big important point. And if you look at, for example, one of our strategic partners in APBA is ISOPA, and if you look at how much effort they put in training people, making them understand, isocyanates, how to handle, how to work with them, how to be safe, and I think that's a tremendously important job. Safety always must come first. And, but when I look around here in Asia, if I have to pay money for every person I see without safety shoes, then I would be a poor man. I would be a poor man. So, yes, there is still in certain areas a long way to go. But I think that the only way to move forward is by sharing that knowledge, learning from each other, and making sure that everybody's being so hyper about their recipes. Come on, recipes patented, yes, in the past they were, but I mean, now they're being published on internet. So,
as you say, we're not reinventing the wheel, are we? We're just trying to get foam specified in more applications, and that's the goal.
That's the goal, absolutely. And like you said before, it's a wonderful material. So many different applications. I mean, I did a thing on thermoplastic PU, and a list of more than 40, 50 different products that you can make out of this material. It's not polyurethane foam in the net sense of the word, but it's polyurethane. So when you look at the future, okay, so what do you think are some key trends that will shape the technical foam market?
I think sustainability, obviously, in terms of, and I'm not from a recycling aspect. So, touching briefly again on your like the mattress recycling, furniture recycling, packaging foam recycling. A lot of foam ends up in packaging applications, and probably then landfill or incineration. So technical foams has got to continue to focus on that. I think a big part of it will be we're all searching for better quality of life in terms of the world in which we live. So sound absorbing applications are still going to be, they're going to be big markets. So sound absorbing foams, thermal absorbing foams are going to have a lot. They've still got a lot of potential. And obviously, the healthcare sector, the medical sector continues to grow. So in terms of ventilation and comfort and those kind of comfort foams in the medical sector. So the technical foams that feed into quality of life, I would say, have still got real potential. And the other ones, obviously, big end users for foam, big OEMs are automotive, aviation, sort of mobility, transport.
Yeah.
The drive there is the reduction of weight. All automotive cars, especially seeing we're heading into the electric sort of world, is reduce weight, reduce weight, reduce weight. So your lightweight, lower density foams are the ones that have got real potential. I think it's consumer driven. Foam is going to be consumer driven. What's going to make our life better, and what's going to make it quieter, what's going to make it lower density foams generally tend to be a little bit cheaper, so it ticks that box as well.
Yes,
I think,
it does. And as long as they are not being produced with wrong substances, that's fine. That's fine, obviously. So, and there we need probably some more research to be done, because the current solutions out there are not really sustainable in that sense. But
I think, I mean, I remember the days 20, 25 years ago where air conditioning units were still relatively new, should we say. And in those days, you probably used to put 25 millimeters of sound absorbing foam virtually all around the inside of the unit to keep the noise down. And as aircon units have got better engineered, produced better, the amount of foam that goes into aircon units has gone down and down and down and down. So as technology improves, we've got to accept the fact that a material such as foam is likely to get less used in big units like that, HVAC units, that kind of thing. So we need that. But it's an inevitability, isn't it? Why incur the cost of putting foam into an aircon unit if you don't need to? So
obviously,
again, it's the same with cars. Less foam is probably going to be used in cars in the future, but it needs to do a job. That's the important thing. It needs to, there will always be a demand for and the requirement for insulating cars, insulating machinery, that kind of thing. So technical foams have got to focus, I would suggest, almost on better performing foams that are of less volume, less, take up less space. That's the challenge.
Yeah, and I think that's a big one. One of the objectives, or maybe the primary objective even of the APBA, is to promote polyurethane material in the widest sense, not only looking at foam, but obviously foam is, you know, the most visual one. The question sometimes I have is, okay, so how many new applications have there been over the last 10 years when you look at polyurethane foam? And then I come to the conclusion it's not that many.
Yes, exactly.
And that's where I think we need to put the focus on. What more can we do with the foam?
Yeah.
Which is not already done.
Yeah, it's very true. Stefan, I mean, you would probably remember when inkjet cartridges came along 20 years ago, and suddenly that was obviously, now, you know, a reticulated 60, 80 PPI foam to go into the cartridge to absorb the ink. That market exploded from nowhere.
Yeah,
absolutely nowhere.
I remember the cartridges being flown into Amsterdam at that time. Flown in. Can you imagine?
And and demand just went through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, maybe there will be applications that come along like that again. I've touched on it earlier about vacuum assisted therapy, wound dressing foams. Yeah, the reticulated foam that goes into the wound that stimulates the tissue growth. When reticulated foam was invented, I'm pretty sure the guy that invented it didn't think it would end up being put in the human body as a wound care treatment. So there are probably still going to be applications in the future for foam that we don't even think of now. Come back to we've been talking about the knowledge of the salespeople within the foam industry has to be improved to a point where, you know, we're aware of such opportunities and we see them. And then the industry can do something about them. It'll be interesting to see what comes next.
Yeah, that's true. I think that, like I said, I also see it as a role of the PU associations worldwide to have an active role in this kind of discussions, research, explorations, whatever you want to call it. So definitely something we have to focus on. So we're almost coming to the end of our interview, Duncan, and there's two things that I would like to do. One is, you know, what would be your advice for new entrants, you know, in the technical foam market? But the second question is the more selfish one. The second question I have is, what can we as APBA do to attract more members? And this is a non-rehearsed question, by the way. So I would really like to hear your view on both of these topics.
I think, let me answer the first one first, new entrants, right? What I've learned over the years is that there's an old saying, good business, the longer it takes to get, the longer you keep it. And I'm very much somebody that's always been in business for the long term. So if you start working with a new customer and it takes a year or two to build into or progress into something that's good, viable, resilient business, work with them for a year or two. Yeah, easy business that comes one day is just as likely to go the next day. So if you're entering the technical foam market, just be patient, because some of the good opportunities that will come your way will just take time to develop. So patience is key, I think. In terms of the APBA, I would urge, and this just doesn't just apply to the APBA, but I would urge it to try and extend it to converters. as much as you possibly can. I know you probably already are.
Yeah. We have that in our scope, yeah.
Yeah, the more members of the association that you have from different aspects of the of industry, the better. Yeah. And converters generally tend to be at the sharp end as well. You know, there's the Foam Expo exhibition in Europe, and I know a number of Asian foam companies tend to attend that one. So I think there's a good opportunity for Asian foam manufacturers to still do more business in Europe, without doubt. Without doubt. I think it always used to frustrate me was that, and this is especially more so since COVID, is that there's a reluctance for people to get off their backside and go and see potential suppliers and go and see new manufacturers. And I don't know why. We've all got lazies, you know, sitting around on Teams and all that kind of thing. So I'd hope that more European companies will get off their backside and come over to Asia and visit, you know, your partners, your colleagues, and actually see what you've got to offer. Because I think that's, you know, face to face, looking around plants makes a world of difference. Until you actually go to a factory and walk around, you don't truly get the understanding. I've obviously done it a number of times, and I've never ever regretted a business trip to the Far East. Never. I've always come back feeling enthused and going, actually, you know, we can do more with these guys. You know, we can develop more business with them. I can see where they're going. So
yeah, no, I mean it talks exactly towards the point that Beram mentioned in his introduction, is which we just recently came up with, doing these APBA tech tours. So actually taking people from Asia and, you know, go to Europe, visit certain factories, customer, you know, whatever type, as long as they are in the industry, to get that awareness, which is the starting point for wanting to gain more knowledge. If you don't know what's out there, you cannot want it because you don't know what it is.
I think you and I come from a generation, Stefan, where we find that quite normal. Traveling, meeting, all that kind of thing. Unfortunately, this day and age, it's less so, isn't it? But I think.
I unfortunately have to agree with you. That's true. That's true. All right, Duncan. Well, I think I do see something in the screen popping up on questions, so I'm sure Peron will give us some.
First of all, well, wonderful discussion between both of you. I think we can keep going on, right, Stefan?
Yeah, I mean, if we have a bottle of scotch, we probably make it another round.
Okay, great.
It's just water. All right.
Yeah. Actually, today I'm also inviting a special guest as part of our conversation today. Is the Secretary General of the APBA, Mr. Sunil Minocha, to join us. You know, have a introduction about APBA and more activities, what they're doing. Maybe get to know more about India, and you know, as APBA is a strategic member of the APBA. So is it all right, Stefan?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also we have one or two questions are there on the screen. Let's invite Sunil to come on board, and then after that we will have answered this audience question as well. Okay, give me a minute.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Sunil, you can open your camera and then also and your audio as well. Audio, please. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, a very good afternoon, a very good evening to Thailand, and good afternoon to UK. And at the outset, I would like to thank both Stefan and Peram to extend this invitation at the last minute. Thank you. And I will take some time to introduce myself and the association. My name is Sunil Minocha, and I am working largely with the molded polyurethane foam industry in India since more than 2 decades now. And I had a passion towards polyurethane, which made me move towards APBA, and I'm a part of this association since 2022 now, and I'm the current Secretary General. Our association is managed by an executive body, which comprises of like a mix of members. We have a total around 270 member organizations. When I say organizations, I mean raw material producers, processors, converters, all types of foam also. But 270 organizations definitely does not mean 270 people, it means much more. So we have a fairly good presence in India today. We work with only one objective, which is to increase the use of polyurethane in India. All our actions are focused in that direction. So whatever industry concerns are there or whatever is required for the development of the polyurethane, we do that. We have webinars like this one every month, and we'll henceforth be sharing the platforms with APBA also, as we are now strategic partners. And thank Stephen for having us there as a strategic partner. So we do webinars, we organize trainings for our members, wherein we get faculty from our senior members and we impart trainings, and we create awareness about sustainability. That's one area. And in trainings, we do safety, we do specialized subjects. Then we are running some education courses, or we run a postgraduate diploma program, and through which we provide skilled, trained human resource for our members. And that is the other thing. And the biggest thing we do is the exhibition, which is the PU Tech show, and which is part of the events. We do other events also. But PU Tech, we have been doing it since 2005. It used to be a triennial show, but now it is being increased to a biennial show. We had one in 2023, and the next is on April 9 to April 11, 2025. I would like to use this platform to invite everybody to PU Tech 2025 in India. And if IPUA can be of any assistance in planning your travel, etc., you can get in touch with us. But we would like participation, we would like visitors, and also on the side of the exhibition, there is a conference. So with that conference, we have around 31 papers coming up and some panel discussions. So and those papers are all global companies are there talking about India also. So that's a huge, big opportunity in my view for the world to come and see what we do. So that is in April 2025. So these are some activities we do, and also one thing I would like to add, that in the 2025 exhibition, we are having the global isocyanate producers working group meeting also, just 2 days before the exhibition. So associations from all over the world would be there too. So we are hosting that also. So it's going to be a fairly busy week for us.
Yeah.
And we look forward to participation from all over. And if there are any specific questions to India, yes, India is a market. We consume around, or we process around 800 kilotons of polyurethane annually. The largest chunk coming in is from the comfort industry, what we were talking, followed by automotive, footwear, rigid panels, but we are growing at a CAGR of 8%, and we foresee to grow at the same rate, at least for the next 8 to 10 years. So that is the opportunity. We have low capacities on major raw material productions in India, and I think that is a big opportunity for the global companies to come to India and do local manufacturing, and the Indian government is also promoting these investments, and like a lot is happening. So that in brief is what I could say, and if there are any questions, I'll be too happy to take. Thank you. Thank you, Stefan and Rena both. And it was very nice listening to you, Ankan, over the last 1 hour. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you,
Sunil, for joining on a short notice and your kind words. We really appreciate this new strategic membership partnership. And as I mentioned before, without knowing you were coming, we really believe that we can share the learnings from all over the world of all the PU associations. So I'm welcoming hopefully some representation from the Shanghai PU Association. They are also expressed to want to join. I talked, of course, with Europe, but they have some limitations into what they are allowed to do according to their statutes. But nevertheless, they have sent some people over on the last conference. So I think the next step is to reach out to the Americas and find some connections there to make it really a global connection.
Yeah.
I would welcome that.
Yeah, actually, that's as you see, the IPU is doing lots of good activities for the India. APBA and IPBA could collaborate together more and more, hand in hand, and see do the things that are good for India as well as other parts of Asia as well. Because Indian IPU, they have huge expertise as well, Stefan. Indian PU experts are there. So I think that I believe that we are visiting the exhibition, PU Tech in April, right? Probably we also, as as an association, we also promote their activities. And it's good to know about there is a working group. Raw material working group is also doing. It's going to be a fantastic week there. We also from our end of to publicize and invite among our network as well to visit India, explore India. India has a lot of things that myself is Indian but living in Thailand, but at heart I'd like to support as much as I can to IPUA. And there is a project like Make in India, Made in India. So there are lots of things that you can invest in India. There are a lot of incentives investing in India so it's a huge market. I think the whole Asia, not Europe or US, they should look at India as one of the destination to do business in the polyurethane industry. So I think that's thanks, Sunilji. I saw your name. I saw you as one of the participant. Okay, why don't I just pull you out? So share your things about IPUA and get to know people. And thank you very much for joining now. Yeah, so appreciate it. Yeah. So,
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we have one more questions from the audience. So let's pose the questions to the both of you to discuss about it. Yeah. I show on the screen. Yeah.
Okay. Renewable energy space. Oh, wow. That's an interesting one.
Foam applications used in.
Top of my head.
I'm struggling there.
Me too.
But,
I mean, the only thing I can think about. Yeah, go on, Duncan.
No,
sorry.
I was going to say maybe there's kind of specific areas within the renewable energy space that I'm not aware of that would use a bit of foam, but that's yeah.
I'm just sliding through my head: wind energy, water energy.
Yeah.
I don't really see a direct connection for PU foam applications. I mean, foam applications being too generic, but PU foam applications, I will be able to talk to. There might be something in water energy, but
yeah, maybe there could be some filtration.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Filtration scenarios. That would be about it.
It's a question that we can't answer today, but let's
yeah.
note it down. And maybe there is somebody more knowledgeable than us, definitely there is, that can answer it for us.
Yeah. And then it's let's just a second.
I mean, I would say, for example, solar panels. Yeah, solar panels require. I'm sure there will be some PU foam used in the sort of the gasketing and the sealing.
Yeah.
Build of the panels. There's bound to be some PU foam in there.
Probably is somewhere, yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
There is one.
Yeah, go on.
There's one more question here. Let's move on with that. Let's hope to find some better answer for them in the future.
Yeah, we will. We definitely will.
Yeah. So there's one more question here.
So these are a couple of questions in one. I think the first one is for you when you say batch to batch consistency, Duncan.
Well, polyurethane foam, generally speaking, there's a term 60-meter block runs. Yeah, so a block run of a particular grade is anything from 45 meters long to maybe up to 120 meter long, but generally speaking, it's about 60 meter long. So obviously within a 60-meter block run, if the block is a meter wide, even half a meter high, you're going to generate 30 cubic meters of foam. End users nowadays will want to ensure that if they have products made from a block one that's made in 1 month, that when that grade is made again, say the next month or the following month, that the products they get from that further batches, further block runs, are of the same quality to the original block run. So the foam manufacturer will take readings within the block in terms of the density, the elongation, the tear strength, the hardness, all that kind of thing. And those parameters will then be set by the manufacturer, and future block runs, so future batches, will be made to that actual specification. Plus or minus, there's always a tolerance. Nothing's exactly the same time after time after time, but batch to batch consistency is very important, especially to the end user. In terms of reticulated foam, of course, let's just say, for example, a foam manufacturer is making a 60 PPI foam, so 60 pores per inch, and that kind of porosity is quite fine. So it's often used in, say, microphone windshields or automotive filtration or so forth. Within that 60 PPI, there will be a tolerance of maybe plus or minus 5 PPI. So again, it's important that each batch is within that manufacturer's tolerance. So batch to batch consistency is important. And
yeah, go on. Yes.
Well, I was going to say, it does also affect the converter in terms of processing, because when you set up tooling, for example, to produce to produce, say, foam filters, the tooling will be set up to, say, die cut foam that is of consistent density and consistent porosity. If the density varies, then you might need to adjust the tooling. So the batch to batch consistency is just as important to the converter as it is to the end user.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Then there are obviously some complicating factors. I mean, when you talk about specifically reticulated foam, and you talk about PPI, what is exactly PPI? And even in our own industry, between the different foamers, there is no consistent answer.
No, it's a different way of measuring.
Logical. Well, yeah, it's logical because PPI assumes a two-dimensional measurement for something that is three-dimensional. And not wanting to go too much into the technical details, but we're talking about a cell, which is like a ball. And you imagine a soccer or football, the round one, and then you try to say, okay, how many holes or how many areas can I see? You know, it depends on how you look at it. Unfortunately, with PPI, there has always been a lot of discussion going on in the industry. Some foam companies introducing their own way of measuring. Some do it this way, some do it that, because it's probably one of the only physical properties which is not standardized in measuring.
Yeah, which is frustrating, isn't it? So
yes, it is. It is.
I think
Not
when I
behind
was
me a microscope, so
yeah,
you
when
know
I
how
was
frustrating it can be.
Yeah, but batch to batch consistency is ultimately driven by the end user. So when they buy a product made from foam, be it from a manufacturer, be it from a converter or whatever, they want to make sure that when they reorder it, they're going to basically get the same quality. People don't want variable quality, they want consistency. So consistency, batch to batch, every time the foamer produces a 60-meter run or a 90-meter run or whatever, each batch has to be as consistent as possible.
Exactly. So maybe I will answer the thing about the lingerie. I mean, whether you talk about reticulated foam or the lingerie industry, whatever industry you're talking about, exactly as Duncan was saying, it's driven by the end user, and consistency is more and more critical as it directly affects the application of the foam in the end product. Asking about how much is chemistry and how much is processing, I think that's a chicken egg question, because equally important and also interchangeable in the sense that when you make foam, you make it in a machine. Most of the foam is being made in a continuous way, hence what Duncan mentioned on the 60-meter blocks. So it's a continuous foaming that you do, and chemistry, and I always call it the mechanical side or the processing side, if you like, is equally important and has effects on each other. If I want to increase the hardness of foam, I can do it via chemistry. I can do it via my machine settings. So there is not one way to fit everything. And unfortunately, that is sometimes why they call making foam an art. Speaking of which, I have a good friend of mine. He's also very well known in the industry. He always says like this: you put all foamers of the whole world in one big bag. You tie them so they're all caught inside. Then you take a bat, from a baseball bat or cricket in your case, Duncan. You hit it. 100%. You always have the best foamer. Because this is the difficulty with our industry. There is no, as Duncan mentioned before, there is no, not a living soul that goes into university saying, I want to go into the PU industry. There is no degree in foaming or foam manager or foam engineer or process engineer in the PU industry. It does not exist. Yes, there is now, luckily, thanks to organizations such as the IPUA, some programs coming into in universities to give it the scientific approach that it is very necessary. It's not impossible to make it into a science, but it requires a lot of work. A lot of work.
There's still, Stefan, all these years later, I mean, PU foam's been around 60, 70 years. There's still a little bit of black art, a little bit of a tweak this, a tweak that, knowledge, experience in making foam.
Yeah. So I hope that answers the question, Per.
Okay. Good. Okay, guys. I think it's a very good discussion, and it's really wonderful to have you, Duncan, as a part of this first episode of the APBA webinar. I think probably Stefan has extended the invitation to you already. We'd like to invite you as an advisor to APBA, to make it, more effective organization and to address the needs of the industry here. So I'm hoping that you accept our invitation to be an advisor, so share your, because
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh, Stefan, I think this is one of the objectives of today's episode, getting Duncan on board to be part of our journey with APBA. It's really, big achievement, so thanks a lot, Duncan, for accepting the invitation, man. Thanks a lot.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for the invite, guys.
So give us a final message before we, end this session. Final message to the audience, please, Duncan.
Me? How about me?
No,
Yeah,
Duncan first.
Oh,
Duncan first, yeah.
I mean, as I say, sitting here as somebody who's had the privilege of working with Asian foam manufacturers for, say, 12, 13 years, I've always enjoyed doing business in Asia. In fact, I've also done business in India, so it was interesting to listen to Sunil earlier as well. I think there's huge potential growth within Asia in the foam sector. I think it's actually progressed a lot quicker in recent years than maybe we're giving ourselves credit for. But I think, there's massive potential for PU foam still in India. So, to watch and be a part of this is really good. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for the invite and for the chance to. It's always a pleasure talking about foam, isn't it? So, I've enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Duncan. Stefan, okay, what do you think is the first episode hosting as a chairman of the APBA and a conversation with Duncan? Yeah, man, tell me. Yeah.
I think it's first of all, thanks, Duncan, for taking the time, and it's just not appearing on camera. It also takes a lot of preparational work, which you have done for us. So really appreciate that. And as Per mentioned, I'm very happy you have accepted the new role as advisor for the APBA. So we'll be seeking your advice for many things. You can bet on that.
No problem.
As far as the webinar is concerned, I think it's a good way to do it, and it is hopefully something that we can share a lot of more times with our members and audience. And I'm very interested to find out what is the feedback from the audience, what did they like or not like. I mean, especially maybe that, because then we can also learn and improve ourselves, and that's something that I've always put as a note for myself. Continuous improvement. That's a very important point here. Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much, Duncan and Stefan, for doing a wonderful session today as a first episode. Duncan, you are the star. It's the first episode, so thank you, sir, for being part of this APBA webinar.
Thanks for organising it. Thanks for organising it, Karan.
Thanks a lot, really. Yes. Stefan, the chairman of the APBA, appreciate having good conversation, getting all the input, all the intelligence that we need for the audience to learn about technical forms and issues related to technical forms and markets and opportunities. So it's a really good session today, and we will have more sessions in the future. I think we also have schedules to follow at APBA webinars on a regular basis by inviting experts from the different parts of the world and expertise. So thank you very much, both of you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, guys, that's the end of the session today. APBA webinar with a conversation with Mr. Duncan Gadesh. He is the previous one of the technical form services from UK, and he talked about technical forms and markets and developments, opportunities. It's a pleasure to have him. I'm really hoping that you find this session useful. If you have any comments, suggestions, and you are welcome, as Stefan has mentioned about getting a feedback. So please do so. This is a record. This session will be available in the record session also. If you have missed it, you can also watch it. I'm going to send a link to you later on. We'll put it on YouTube and make it accessible to everyone whoever is interested to watch this session. And on behalf of the APBA, I once again thank you very much. I look forward to welcome you in the future episodes of the APBA webinars and all other activities that we host or we support. So please do check our website, apba.online, for more information, get to know about what's happening from our side. For now, thank you all, and bye-bye for now, and I'll see you in the next episode the next time. Bye-bye.